Hi, welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Great to have you in the conversation with us today aboard the USS Focal Point, our patrol boat in which we patrol the choppy waters of America's public life, looking relentlessly, without stopping, fearlessly for the coordinates where truth intersects with politics, where truth intersects with our public and shared common life together. Our commander is on the bridge. The scriptures, our nautical charts, the Holy Spirit, our navigator, and I serve as your loyal, humble, and cheerful first mate. Great to have you on board today. Now, I want to jump right in by going back to the prayer breakfast yesterday. These are clips, looks like 7 through 10, Rob. And this is Dr. Benjamin Carson. Now, Benjamin Carson is one of the leading neurosurgeons. He's a pediatric neurosurgeon. Most people don't even know what that means. But he is one of the most skilled neurosurgeons in the world. He's at Johns Hopkins, which is one of the leading medical centers in the world. He's obviously extremely bright, extremely intelligent, and he is a strong, strong believer in Jesus Christ. He is one of us, and he is fearless. And yesterday he spoke at the National Prayer Breakfast. And right there on the dais with him was Senator Jeff Sessions, who introduced him. And Senator Sessions, by the way, introduced him as a man who loves Jesus. That was the first thing that Senator Jeff Sessions said about Ben Carson. He loves Jesus. And then sitting right next to Senator Sessions is Barack Obama. This guy was not a happy camper because Dr. Carson took President Obama on mano a mano. He went head-to-head with the President of the United States. He did not blink. He did not back down. He spoke the words. Just as we read in Jeremiah 1, he spoke the words that God had commanded him to speak. He did so without fear. He was not dismayed. He wasn't weakened. He wasn't intimidated. Wasn't terrified in the presence of the most powerful man in the world. And half the time you're sitting there watching President Obama, because on C-SPAN, you can see Dr. Carson and you can see President Obama the entire time. He was not a happy camper. In fact, his eyes, you look at his eyes, maybe you think, as Jeff Reed said, maybe he's laser painting Dr. Carson, looking for some kind of drone strike to neutralize this guy. Just kidding about that, but he was not a happy camper. Now, Dr. Carson took on several issues in his speech, about 27-minute speech, great speech. I listened to the whole thing this morning. And he takes on, in these first two sound bites, he takes on directly the issue of political correctness. And he says, look, the problem with political correctness is that it is dangerous. He uses a very, very strong word to describe it. He says it is dangerous. Let's listen to Dr. Benjamin Carson yesterday, National Prayer Breakfast.
Now, it's not my intention to offend anyone. I have discovered, however, in recent years that it's very difficult to speak to a large group of people these days and not offend someone. And people walk around with their feelings on their shoulders waiting for you to say something. Did you hear that? And they can't hear anything else you say. The PC police are out in force at all times. I remember once I was talking to a group about the difference between a human brain and a dog's brain. And a man got offended. He said, you can't talk about dogs like that. But, people just focus in on that, completely miss the point of what you're saying. And we've reached a point where people are afraid to actually talk about what they want to say because somebody might be offended. People are afraid to say Merry Christmas at Christmas time. It doesn't matter whether the person you're talking to is Jewish or, whether they're any religion. That's a salutation, a greeting of goodwill. We've got to get over this sensitivity, and it keeps people from saying what they really believe.
So that's Dr. Benjamin Carson. If you want to weigh in, it's Free for All Friday. Love to get your reactions to what you're hearing right now. As you listen to Dr. Benjamin Carson, something strikes you, comment, reaction, question, call us, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Here is his second comment, second soundbite on the issue of political correctness.
And, what we need to do what we need to do in this PC world is forget about unanimity of speech and unanimity of thought.
Amen, brother.
And we need to concentrate on being respectful of those people with whom we disagree. And that's when I think we begin to make real progress. And one last thing about political correctness, which I think is a horrible thing, by the way. I'm very, very compassionate, and I'm not ever out to offend anyone. But PC is dangerous. Because you see, this country, one of the founding principles was freedom of thought and freedom of expression. And it muffles people. It puts a muzzle on them. And at the same time, keeps people from discussing important issues while the fabric of their society is being changed. And we cannot fall for that trick. And what we need to do is start talking about things that are important, things that were important in the development
of our nation, development of our nation. So that's Dr. Ben Carson. He's saying, look, this PC business, it is dangerous. He said it is fundamentally anti-American and it is fundamentally un-American. It's fundamentally contrary to the foundational principles of this nation, which was the free expression of thought, the free expression of ideas, robust political debate. And right now, you know, you have on the left is not into debate. They are not into discussion. They're not into dialogue. They want to destroy. They want to exterminate. They want to silence. They want to muzzle. They want to neutralize. They want to marginalize anybody who challenges their politically correct worldview. That's why you have T-shirt makers getting sued if they won't print T-shirts for gay pride parades. They're not interested in debate. They're not interested in freedom of association. They want to squash dissent. They want to bury it. They're like Khrushchev at the UN. We will bury you. They're taking their shoes off and pounding them on the counters of T-shirt makers and bakers. You don't want to bake a cake because of your Christian convictions for a lesbian wedding ceremony. They will pound their shoe on your counter. They will say, we will bury you, and they will take you to court. You're a photographer. You don't want to photograph a lesbian commitment ceremony that has absolutely no legal status whatsoever in your state. They're not content. They went and found another photographer. They're not content with that. They're not content to respect your right to disagree, respect your religious beliefs, respect the Constitution of the United States. They're not content with that. They're going to take their shoe off. They're going to bang it on the counter. They're going to say, we will bury you. And they're going to take your complaint to the New Mexico Human Rights Commission and get you fined $7,000. If you're in a counseling program, a graduate counseling program, you going into the helping professions, and you say, you know, I just don't believe homosexual behavior is healthy. If somebody comes to me and wants me to help them get used to that, I don't think I should do that. I don't think I should even try to. It would be professionally irresponsible of me to do that. I think the best thing for me to do would be to refer. That's the professional standard. You get into a situation you don't think you can give the help to that person that they need. What you are to do is you are to refer. So 2 women, we know of at least 2 who've done this. They did that. They referred. They said, look, I'm not the best person to help this individual because I don't think I can support the direction that they want to go with the therapy and with the counseling. I will be happy to refer. I'm not saying they shouldn't have the opportunity to talk to anybody. I'm not saying that. I'm all for freedom of speech. I'm for freedom of association. I'm for respecting the right of people to choose, make their own decisions in these regard. But that's not enough for not enough for big gay. It's not enough for the homo fascists. It's not enough for the homo Nazis. They kicked these people right out of that program. If you're not willing to embrace homosexuality, if you're not willing to endorse it, if you're not willing to say that it is A-OK, then we're going to bounce you right out of a program. And remember, this was a career. These 2 women were going into this for a career because they wanted to help people. And Big Gay said, nope, if you're not willing to embrace our agenda on homosexuality, we're going to bounce you out of this program. Your career is finished. It's in the ash can, in the archives. It's history because you will not toe the line. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is not America. That's not America. But that is the homosexual movement. That is the left. That is where the secular fundamentalist world is at, including President Barack Obama. Now, I think we got time for this next clip. He talks about health care because he's a neurosurgeon. He's interested in everybody getting the best health care they possibly can. And he's also, fascinatingly enough, he's a fiscal conservative. And he takes Barack Obama head on his class warfare. Remember, Jeff Reed put those sound bites together at the beginning of the program, all about class warfare, President Obama insisting he's not about class warfare. But that's exactly what he's about. What he is about punishing producers. He wants to go after them. He thinks there's something wrong with the amount of money they have. They're successful. It's not right. It's not fair. The only reason they're successful is they've stolen from the poor people, which how does that make any sense? The poor people don't have anything. How can you steal from them? They have nothing to steal. I mean, the whole premise is absurd, but that's the way President Obama thinks. So he's got to punish the producers. And Benjamin Carson comes right after him. Let's listen.
And when I pick up my Bible, you know what I see? I see the fairest individual in the universe, God, and he's given us a system. It's called tithe. Now, we don't necessarily have to do it 10%, but it's principle. He didn't say, if your crops fail, don't give me any tithes. He didn't say, if you have a bumper crop, give me triple tithes. So there must be something inherently fair about proportionality. You make $10 billion, you put in $1 billion. You make $10, you put in $1. Of course, you got to get rid of the loopholes. But now some people say, well, that's not fair because it doesn't hurt the guy who made $10 billion as much as the guy who made 10. Where does it say you have to hurt the guy? He just put $1 billion in the pot. We don't need to hurt him. It's that kind of thinking. It's that kind of thinking that has resulted in 602 banks in the Cayman Islands. That money needs to be back here, building our infrastructure and creating jobs.
Boy, and Barack Obama did not like hearing that one last little bit. You could start to see the smoke come pouring out of his nostrils and out of his ears as Carson went on. And he said, look, it's not right to punish the producers. The guy's already put $1 billion into the pot. Why are you going after him? Why are you treating him as the bad guy? He's put $1 billion in the pot. Why are you going after him? And he says, look, when God set up a collection system, it was absolutely fair. Everybody paid the same percentage. That's what a tithe is. Tithe is a word that means 10%. When God went out to collect taxes, he set it up. Everybody pays 10%. You make $1 billion, you pay 10% of $1 billion. You make $1,000, you pay 10% of $1,000. That is what's fair. So Benjamin Carson, and I'm with him on this, I'm all for the flat tax. I'm a big time proponent of the flat tax. Anything else is inherently unfair, it's unjust, and it is un-American. The progressive tax code is flatly un-American, it's unjust, it is unfair, and it is contrary to the principles of a free people who are guided by the Judeo-Christian tradition. And there's Ben Carson going right after Barack Obama, eyeball to eyeball, does not flinch. Focal Point AFR Talk.